what is self-publishing? It's also known as independent or indie publishing. In fact, that would be my preferred term, but I think most people have heard of it, have heard of self-publishing more than indie publishing. Also, there are some independent publishers, meaning smaller publishers who aren't linked to the big five. They're not part of Random House or HarperCollins or one of those, that call themselves independent publishers. So sometimes that term can be a bit confusing, but I do like that idea of being an indie, of being an independent. So the history of self-publishing really took off with ebooks in the 90s. In a way, we talk about the three waves of self-publishing. So the first wave was in the 90s. It was still fairly basic. That was the very early adopters who got on board with creating digital content that could be shared online and self-published. Then 2007 was a watermark year. That was the year that Apple released its iPhone and Amazon released its first Kindle ebook reader, which those two innovations revolutionized ebook publishing. Amazon, with its KDP, Kindle Direct publishing platform, really just transformed the publishing landscape. And those early years, that sort of second wave, so the 1990s was sort of the first wave, and it was very quite basic compared to what we've got now. From 2007 onwards, with the rise of the e-reader and people starting to get into publishing ebooks and many people being attracted to self-publishing, there was this incredible outpouring. And I would say the golden years were probably around about 2009, 2010, 2011. And in those years, we had names like Amanda Hocking, great big breakout names. A couple of my friends actually were lucky enough to publish in those golden years and became very big names straight away. There was very little competition. It was all very new. And those who got in on the ground floor in the very beginning got very lucky. Then we're now currently in the third wave. What's happened now is that there is obviously, I think there's something like 200 ebooks being uploaded every minute, or 200 a day. I'm not too sure what the actual statistic is. I read it the other day and it's gone in and out my head. But there is a lot more competition. It is a lot harder to make it nowadays as a self-published author. It's still possible, but it's not quite as easy as it was in those early days. But the bonus side, or the flip side, is that there are obviously a lot more readers who are now reading digitally. Whereas in those early days, it was the first wave of people who bought Kindles, whereas now kind of everybody's reading some form of their content online. And of course, with the pandemic, there has also been a lot of people have turned a lot more to reading and a lot more to reading online. And we're so much more used to being online. So while there is more competition, there is also more opportunity. And also publishing has changed, and that algorithms have changed. The methods, techniques and service providers have just exploded to support the self-publishing platforms. So there is a lot more technology available than there was back in 2007 in the second wave. Okay, so what exactly is self-publishing? This is where you, the author, become the publisher. So in the very early days, and I'm probably talking pre-1990s, pre-ebooks, self-publishing was really viewed as the last resort of the desperate, people who couldn't get published. So, of course, it had a certain stigma attached to it. This idea of people going off and spending a fortune of their own money to publish a whole lot of, to have their book printed, and they would have boxes and boxes of their own book in their garage, and they would be selling out of the boot of their car kind of idea. That is most certainly not the idea now. Today, self-published authors, a lot of the stigma has gone, firstly because self-published authors are now so successful, and you often can't tell nowadays when you look at the bestseller lists who is self-published and who isn't. And there are so many successful self-published authors who are making a really decent living, in fact, making a killing out of self-publishing. But they now are seeing themselves as businesses. It is very much they are career authors who treat this like a business, who are very involved in publishing. This is not just something that people do. There are people, hobbyists, and people who just publish on the side of the occasional book. But a lot of people are taking this seriously. And of course, when you take yourself seriously, the world takes you seriously too. So fortunately, a lot of that stigma from the early days has now gone. What self-publishing is not is vanity publishing. And I just want to touch on vanity publishing, and I will talk about it again later. Vanity publishing is where you pay money to somebody to publish your book. So in traditional publishing, a publisher pays the author money. The publisher covers all the costs of book cover design and formatting and editing, and they put the book out in the world, and they keep the lion's share of the profits, but they have a contract with the author, and they pay royalties to the author, or advances and royalties. That's traditional publishing. Vanity publishing is where the author pays money to the publisher. Notice it's going in the completely opposite direction now. And we will talk about service providers later, and who you might want to pay money to and who you might not. But if you are giving your rights away and your money away, you are being scammed. And that is vanity publishing. Now, some vanity publishers dress themselves up as independent publishers or self-publishing support companies. But if anybody is asking you to foot the bill for printing, if they are asking you to give your rights away, if they are asking you to guarantee a certain number of sales, and if you don't reach that number of sales, then you have to foot the bill and pay for that number of books. If they insist that you have to buy X number of copies of your own book, that is a red flag for vanity publishing. And basically, vanity publishing is a nice way of saying it is a scam, to scam money from authors. And a lot of those companies make their money not from selling your book. They're not interested in selling your book to anybody, because they are making their money from the author. And they will continue dunning you for more and more money and keep coming back to you with new packages that they want to sell you, because you are their customer, not the reader. So avoid like the plague. Right. Self-publishing does require a business or entrepreneurial mindset, which is why this might not be for everybody. It's why I've sort of dabbled in self-publishing, but I haven't taken it as seriously as many other authors have, because it really does need you to get very involved. This is not something you can just throw a book out there and just walk away from it. You do need to approach this like a serious side hustle, even if it's not your main business. Well, why would you then choose to self-publish? That sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? Well, there are a lot of benefits to self-publishing. Firstly, if you write in a niche genre that the mainstream publishers really aren't interested in because it's got too small a market, then self-publishing might be for you. That's how Amanda Hocking broke out. She wrote troll books, and they took off. They found a following. Nobody would have thought that books about trolls would take off, but they did. And she had a niche genre that she was publishing too, which then caught on and spread into more mainstream. The other option is obviously if you are of a business mindset, if you're a bit of a control freak, if you are involved in design and you're very interested in publishing and you want creative control over your own books and your own publishing schedule, and the marketing and all of that, then this is definitely up your alley. Obviously, the other benefit of self-publishing is that you get to keep all the royalties. Obviously, Amazon and whoever take their cut, but once you have covered your expenses, you get to keep all the money.